Okay, I will call to order Tuesday, October 5th, City Council meeting and an approval of the agenda. So moved. Second. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
First item is the consent agenda for the minutes of the past month.
I have a few corrections.
Okay.
Okay, for September 8th. On the second page, page 2, and the last graph before good of the order. And it says, Adams noted, I will take the last 3 years of new development using these guidelines, calculate with new ratios to see how it would affect the properties. He said he would send those to us. And so I want to make sure that we get them. And so I'd like that.
Can you, where that was again? I want to make sure we get it to you.
Okay, it's on page 2, September 8th. And it starts out with McKinley reported you gave us good feedback and Adams has his order for the process to start.
Okay.
So would you be good if at the end of that, I read?
The end of it is, yes, that this, he was going to send it actually to the Planning Commission, to DRB and City Council.
Okay, I'll put, and we'll send to City Council, Planning Commission, and DRB.
Yes,
Okay.
thank you. And then the other one is on September 14th, 2 of 6. And it is a discuss, it's at the very bottom. A discussion ensued about undesirable buildings. Risley added, we need a better study. We need a better water study. When Carolyn Probst was our Public Works Committee chair, which isn't there either, and Watershed Council, she suggested after we received our water study that she proposed a grant application by the city and Watershed Council to combine, which would include fish, wildlife, and habitat with regards to the water. That's it.
Changes to the motion.
Move to approve the minutes from September 7th, 8th, 14th, 15th, and the 25th with the noted corrections by Councilor Risley.
A second. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Session is the public comment, and I do not have anybody signed up for public comment. I will give those on pending from Zoom a chance to raise their hand. But I don't see anybody jumping on it, so we will move on. And I believe we're going to go straight to an introduction. Jason.
Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor and Council, it is my honor to introduce our newest officer, Rashad Gibson. Come on, Rashad. Rashad comes to us from Brim Aviation, where he helped extricate bar pilots that were having issues out in the ocean and did rescues doing that. He also helped with developmental disabilities, and he was in the Coast Guard for 4 years. Prior to that, honorably discharged, which is how we got connected with him. He worked with Christian Salinas, our officer. Christian was the supervisor. Oh, yeah. When they were in the Coast Guard. And so we're very happy to have him on board. And he started last week, I guess the week before. And so he's kind of getting introduced to everything. Today, he actually spent the afternoon with us up at the range, and he did a good job. He's got lots of things coming into him like a fire hose. So he's take it all in, and he has a great sense of humor. I'm going to have him read the oath of office, code of conduct that we do, and then the last paragraph, the judge will come up and swear him in. So if you want to turn around and face the audience.
As a criminal justice officer and in service for the city of Cannon Beach, my fundamental duty is to serve humankind, safeguard lives and property, to protect all persons against deception, the weak against oppression or intimidation, and the peaceful against violence or disorder, and to respect the constitutional rights of all people to liberty, equality, and justice. I will keep my private life unsullied as an example to all, maintain courageous and calm in the face of danger, scorn, or ridicule, develop self-restraint, and be constantly mindful of the welfare of others. Honest in thought and deed in both my personal and official life, I'll be exemplary in obeying the laws of the land and the regulations of my department. Whatever I see or hear of a confidential nature or that is confided to me in my official capacity will be kept ever secret unless revelation is necessary in the performance of my duty. I will never act officiously or permit personal feelings, prejudices, animosities, or friendships to influence my decisions. Without compromise and with relentlessness, I will uphold the laws affecting the duties of my profession courteously and appropriately without fear or favor, malice or ill will, never employing unnecessary force or violence, and never accepting gratuities. I recognize my position as a symbol of public faith, and I accept it as a public trust to be held so long as I am true to the ethics of the criminal justice system. I will constantly strive to achieve these objectives and ideals, dedicating myself before God to my chosen profession.
Thank you, sir. And I'll bring up Pro Tem Judge Ashley Flukinger to swear you in.
Okay, raise your right hand. I state your name,
I, Rashad Gibson,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America
that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America
and the state of Oregon,
and the state of Oregon,
and I will enforce the laws and ordinances
and I will enforce the laws and ordinances
of the city of Cannon Beach, Oregon,
of the city of Cannon Beach, Oregon,
to the best of my ability
to the best of my ability
as a police officer for the city of Cannon Beach.
as a police officer for the city of Cannon Beach.
Congratulations.
Oh, she's got a whole file. They don't need to be verbal. They're both former Coast Guard and they can communicate without words.
Uh-oh.
Thank you, Sean.
Thanks, Shad.
Thank you, Ashley.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ron.
Hey, thank you. Coming.
The important stuff is over.
Yeah.
Yeah, can we go?
Okay, we'll go to our next item. Public hearing on resolution 2126, the resolution of Cannon Beach City Council adopting findings exemption from competitive bidding requirements for the city of Cannon Nation project. Bruce.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We've had several discussions about this. And the recommendation is for the Cannon Beach Elementary project to be conducted using an architect and engineer. And instead of going the traditional way of design, bid, build, to have the firm that is going to be doing the construction actually part of the design. And that's called CMGC or Construction Management General Contractor. Because it's not the most, I don't think that it's used as much as the bid build. There is a requirement that the council adopt the findings to say, essentially give authorization to move forward with the contracts that would be showing a construction manager, general contractor delivery method for the construction. I believe that next week, the workshop, we should have the RFP for the architect portion of this. And then the CMGC contract will probably come about 8 weeks later. But we will be, once we have made a selection, we will get started on the architectural side. Are there any questions?
Yeah, when is it best to bid and appoint an owner's representative with experience with this complex type of public construction? Wouldn't we be money ahead with an experienced construction manager who would hold the parties responsible?
Yeah, that's my preference. It wouldn't, the construction manager would not be, what'd you call the person, a construction manager?
Mhm.
Okay, a construction, if we're still talking about CMGC, the additional person that I would like to see, but I think we can get by without it on this project, would be a construction administrator. And that's someone that monitors the relationship between the architect and the general contractor when we reach that point. They would not be an owner's representative. We want to have the architect be the sole contact as far as direction with the general contractor. But this person would make sure that all of the things that provide the bones for the construction, for example, change orders, requests for information, all those things, we'll be monitoring all that on behalf of the city. But as far as having a construction manager, I don't know if you're talking about somebody over and above the construction manager, general contractor, or in addition to or in lieu of.
Well, just somebody that would be accountable for everything. And so maybe that's what I do mean.
And I think the accountability rests with the contractor in the construction aspect. And then the construction administration and the design are the responsibility there is with the architect. And so you can have somebody that kind of monitors that, but there's not somebody that would accept the responsibilities of errors of the architect or bad judgment or the contractor. We want to hold them accountable for their portions. So right now, I think that on this project, we will be able to do that with me and Karen monitoring the architect, making sure the architect is monitoring the contractor. On a larger project, I would probably say we want to have somebody that is doing that, not full-time, but more time than we would have to be able to allocate to it.
Explain to me how the process would go for the architect. We'll have an RFP. We'll select, we, the council, select an architect. I think it's,
Well, ultimately, you would approve the contract. There is a selection committee, and I believe that would be up to you as to who you want to put on the selection. But traditionally, that's a staff function.
yeah, what I'm trying to get at is not so much the selection of the architect,
Mhm.
but the approval of the architect's design.
Oh, that would be the council.
Okay.
It would go through and when there would be different phases. And the contracts will be set up based on phases. There's schematic, which is when we're talking, we have multiple choices. And well, we like this, we don't like this. And then ultimately it gets down to a decision. Then you're in design development. And that's when you've made your choice and it's going to be this one. And then you start dealing with much more details on it so that you can see how it's going to develop. And then ultimately, it's shop draw, or not shop drawings, but bid documents. And the bid documents have all the details that will say, I mean, we know there's going to be an air handler. The bid documents would say, this air handler, or this one, these three are the only ones that are acceptable. And it would have the quality of the wiring, the carpet, all those kind of things, that level of detail. So before, the way I see it is that there'll be a process where we get public input. And then that will drive the schematic design, where there'll be a lot of public input and then also a lot of input from the council. And then once we get to a design that we've selected, then it becomes a little bit more technical, but we say, okay, we're done with schematic design. And then whatever payments are to be made at the end of schematic are made at that time. And all contractual requirements for schematic design are said, okay, you've met those. Now we're in the design development phase. And then the design development would be about a model that you're looking to do, and you would review all that. And that's where in the schematic design, there'll be a picture of a dais looking down on it and a floor plan. And schematic design, they'll be getting into more of the elevations and the design so that you'll get a handle for it. And then you would approve that, and then we would go on, and then we would develop the bid documents. The bid documents will be determined by the architect and the CMGC, because what happens is we go out and it's a public bid to whatever, there'll be 2 or 3 bid packages. And then the city approves the bid packages, whoever's going to be, getting those 3. And then at that point, those individuals work for the GC. He's no longer the CM, he's the GC, and they work for him. So there's several points where council would have the responsibility to make decisions, including the decision on the subcontractors.
I feel there's something missing where there was supposed to be a piece where there would be Cannon Beach citizen involvement.
Mhm.
And I thought that Sam might be heading up something like that, or at least that was my impression.
We can do it any way that council wishes to, and you'll be seeing the scope next week. And so that's the kind of thing that we need to talk about and to incorporate into the scope so that when people are proposing, they know how the project process is supposed to go. But ultimately, with a public process, it would be advisory to council, because council has to make the decisions on, which designs to use, that sort of thing.
Right.
The schematic phase is where hopefully we'll get people to bring points of view in, and we'll have things to show them at that point too. That's what schematic is a whole mess of choices, and you mentioned choices, but that gives us some back and forth. That timeline is ours to expand or contract as we wish. Chris is right, the ultimate decision is ours as a council.
Well, and what I was reading, it was hurry it along, and I thought a big piece was missing.
Schematic design will be what you want it to be and what I want it to be also. And that's to have a lot of public input into it, because that's when the thing really gets its character. And then from that point on, it's, putting drywall on and, talking about plants or whatever it's going to be. So the schematic phase is in my mind, is the most important phase. And public input is absolutely where that's appropriate.
I think in conjunction to that, I think we also need to be talking about, at least at our level, how is this facility going to be managed?
Mhm.
And so I think we need to start developing that plan alongside of what is the facility.
Right.
So, yeah,
I think we need to get, well, yes, I agree, but I think it's more towards the end of schematic. When we know what kind of activities and those kind of things is when we really start saying, okay, now this is what we need to wrap our arms around from a management standpoint.
I think they're a little more intertwined because management's going to kind of define some of the facility. And we need to talk about that, that's all.
Yeah.
And I'm just realizing how it takes us time to talk about things.
Mhm.
And I'd rather not go through a schematic and then go through the management. And you're just extending that whole block of time, whether we could do it at the same time while the architects are off doing some doodling. We can do some noodling.
And I see, yes,
How do you spell that?
how do you spell it? That's right. Sam, I think we're very close on what we're talking about, because in my mind, while design development was occurring, we would be sorting out the management, how it would be run, because there will be a gap there for activity while the architect and CM are off working. Then they go ahead and they bring us back. So that's a good opportunity after getting all the input and trying to figure everything out. What is the best model for us to manage?
Right. And I guess the only other thing there is the RFP. When we get to that point, we really need to hammer that out clearly.
Could have the RFP will be on the agenda for the 9th? 12th, I'm sorry, yeah, it'll be on the agenda for the 12th. And we're working on that with Chris Green from Barry Elsner. Barry Elsner is going to go ahead and make sure all the contracts dovetail the way they're supposed to, and that the contracts flow from the RFP.
Okay, it just makes it more important.
Okay. This RFP is the most important phase for council in terms of control of the project. So, I mean, we really need to give it the time that it takes to sort that through, because the CMGC contract will be based on the AE contract. And also I assume that the RFP for the CMGC will be very similar to what you see for the architect's RFP. So it's a big deal.
Bruce, has our city attorney confirmed that this application of the CMGC format conforms with all the current rules and laws?
That's why we have them working on it. And Chris has experience with Forest Grove and a couple other cities that have just done some developments with, built some facilities of theirs using CMGC.
Is Chris Cream an attorney, our
Yes.
attorney?
Yes, he works with, he's a colleague of Ashley's,
Oh,
Barry Elsner. That's what I was saying.
okay.
He and I are putting the contract together, but really it's him putting the contract together.
So we know that it does fit all of the
Yes,
current rules and laws.
yes. There have been some changes recently that are more beneficial, I think, to the city. In the past, if we were to rank 1, 2, and 3, just based on whatever information they provided us in interviews or whatever, we had to negotiate with the one that we ranked the top. And that's the first time we were able to talk about price. And then either we agreed or we didn't agree, and then they go away. We don't get to have competition. Then we would go to the second one and go through the same process. Now, once you've gone through your first ranking, then you can ask the top 3 for price information. And that price information can change your overall ranking, between the 3. But that's when you can start to, we will have information for the top 3 proposers. The top 3 may not, number 1 may not be the least expensive, but it was they were the ones that were ranked before we saw the numbers on the other. So, but that's very good, so that you can get an idea of what the market is. Before, we've never had that.
Yeah, and not the lowest price either necessarily, because we're going to have solar considerations
Yes.
and other. So,
And it'll be, you're absolutely right. And that is what's in the RFP. So they're going to tell us what other projects they've worked on that are similar, and what projects as a firm, and then as the project people, what kind of, what they've done. So it's going to be, like a lot of information, and some people might rank something higher than another, which is why you have, multiple people on the selection committee. But there's a lot in the RFP, and the proposals can come back like to fill this binder. But we will limit to probably 15 pages, because it's really all they need to make it easier to get get through the information. So anyway, that's how that process will work. And Chris will be working with us all the way through the project. So if there's any issues or any questions, we would immediately just go to Chris on it. And he'll be dealing with contracts, certifications, everything.
okay.
I have a question, a little different, considering this resolution specifically and the CMGC process. Will it be necessary to do this at the time we have a project that we're going to use a CMG for, to have a separate resolution, or would it be possible to do a resolution that just says the city wants to do CMGs when we want to?
It's probably possible, but on the other hand, I'm thinking that because you are saying we want to use this for this project and this is why, and in this case, it's because it's an older building and you want to have the builder involved with the design, so you can kind of hold on to that. We will either have a good experience, neutral, or a bad experience with it. And if we have a good experience, it may be part of the justification if we were to do this again for another project.
I'm just curious. I was thinking that when I was reading through the justifications, it seemed very generic.
It's pretty generic.
Could have gone for any project that,
Yeah.
So, and I guess that's a question for Ashley also, just
Yeah.
to see if it would be possible to, whenever we have a large project, we could just kick right into this. But I'm not sure I totally understand it yet, so maybe it is a good idea just to focus on one. Okay. Any other concerns, questions? Hearing any, so how about a motion?
I'll take it. Move to adopt resolution 21-26, the resolution of the city of Cannon Beach City Council adopting findings to support an exemption from competitive bidding requirements for the Cannon Beach Elementary Rejuvenation Project, declaring such exemption and authorizing a process to award a construction manager / general contractor CM contract.
Second. Okay. My apologies. This is a public hearing thing, so we have a motion seconded. We'll just hold on to that for a second, and we'll go to our hearing part of this. Here, this is a public hearing for the purpose of considering findings to support the GC contracting process for the proposed Cannon Beach Elementary School rejuvenation project. At this time, pursuant to ORS 279C3355, I will open the public hearing in order to give any interested party a chance to comment on the draft findings for an exemption from the competitive bidding requirement. Is there anybody who wants to raise their hand out of the 7 attendees? Not seeing any. I will ask staff. Oh, geez. Staff, would please, we did that. Is there any interested party wishing to comment on the draft findings for an exemption of the competitive bidding process? Still, anybody want to raise their hand? Not seeing any. There is no further discussion. I will close the public hearing at this time and move to consideration. Okay, sorry about that. We have a motion. Any comments on the motion?
Mayor, can I just make one comment where one of the things you read, is there any interested party wishing to comment on the draft findings for an exemption from the competitive bidding requirement? Every bid of this project will be competitively bid. It's just the relationship between the builder and the designer is different. So we will competitively bid this. We'll do the same thing with CMGC, the contracts. All of those will be competitively bid.
All subcontracts, everything.
Yes, yeah.
Good.
Yeah, we're not getting, I'm sorry I didn't catch that, but we're not getting away from competitive bidding at all. It's just what we're bidding.
Okay, then. After that little confusion, Jennifer?
Council President Benical,
Yes.
Councilor Risley,
It's just that my vote's still subject to the city attorney's confirmation that this is application of the CMGC format conforms with all the current rules and laws. And with that, I'll say yes.
May I address that for you, Robin?
Pardon me?
Can I address that for you? Because Chris wrote this. He wrote the resolution and
Every step of the way I want to make that is, and that is my concern.
and I want to assure you that he's right from the beginning. He's been involved.
I can second that.
You've been a witness, huh?
I have dealt with Chris as well, so I will say this completely came from Chris.
Okay. Yes.
Okay, Councilor Ogilvy,
Yes.
Councilor McCarthy,
Yes.
Mayor Stidel.
Yes. Okay, there we go. Next item is a proclamation.
Current council, in front of you, you have the proclamation 2110 proclaiming the month of October 2021 as domestic violence awareness month in the city of Canby. I don't know if you guys are aware, but I'm part of the Domestic Violence Council, and we constantly are having meetings trying to find ways to get this awareness out. And actually, something that's going on in October here, I think it's going to start mid-month, is they have silhouettes that will be in businesses in different areas of the county with stories of domestic violence that we've had in our county here, just to raise that level of awareness and hopefully get back some of the walks and different things that we did to raise the awareness in the schools and the communities and the businesses. So as part of that, this proclamation is very important just to get that awareness out there and to our citizens of what a great resource we have in them. They respond to thousands of calls yearly, and we do use them often here in Cannon Beach when we have a domestic violence situation, because it does assist us in being able to handle the arrest and the custody portion while they're helping the victim and getting them the resources that they need. They provide many bed nights, over 1,300 last year alone. And services, they provided over 4,000 last year. The total clients served was 410, which does not include the survivors' children, which can be the most difficult part. Regular participants in the prevention program are 85. And, they're just a great resource for us and throughout the county when they can respond and make it down here. A lot of times it's more advantageous for us to bring the victim back to the police department because they aren't comfortable going to somebody's house, not knowing other families going to come over and start to harass them. And so they do a great job working with us. And so The staff just recommends that you adopt the proclamation.
Can I ask one question?
Please.
When you're talking about bed nights as opposed to sheltered in hotels, does that mean that someone would go to someone's house and stay?
Well, they do have a women's shelter and
Yes,
it's a separate area. It's undisclosed. Nobody knows about where it's at and or they have hotel rooms. So it really depends on what they're needing and if it's a mom and children, if it's somebody that's by themselves, on what works best for them and availability. One thing I'd highly encourage you guys in May as well. I think most of you have attended, but it's a great fundraiser, the Super Bowl event that they do up in Astoria. And it's just good because they usually will have survivors that tell a story and it's just very heartwarming, but it's just a great effort in our community and something that we're always striving to make better.
Very important, but it's a shame we have to do it.
Motion?
I move,
I move to adopt proclamation 2110 proclaiming October 2021 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month in Cannon Beach. Second.
Last comments? Oh, Jennifer?
Counselor Hursley.
Yes.
Counselor Ogilvy.
yes.
Counselor McCarthy.
Yes.
Council President Benefield.
Yes.
Mayor Stidel.
Yes. For the, whereas the first Domestic Violence Month was observed in October 1987, the same year that saw the initiation of the first National Domestic Violence toll-free hotline. And in 1989, Congress designated October as National Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And whereas domestic violence is a pattern of assault and coercive behaviors, including physical, psychological, sexual, and economic abuse, social isolation, and stalking that are used to maintain power and control over a person's intimate partner. And whereas the crime of domestic violence violates an individual's dignity, safety, and basic human rights. And whereas domestic violence is the single largest cause of injury and homicide for women. And whereas children exposed to domestic violence experience terror, isolation, guilt, helplessness, and grief, and have a higher risk of engaging in criminal behavior and substance abuse and becoming victims of crime. Whereas domestic violence is the single largest cause of injury and homicide for women. And whereas domestic violence impacts the health and well-being for our community. And whereas it is incumbent on every citizen to play a role in preventing and ending domestic violence. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Common Council of the City of Cannon Beach hereby adopts that October 2021 to be Domestic Violence Awareness Month in the City of Cannon Beach and encourage all Cannon Beach residents to join in this observance. Passed by the Common Council of the City of Cannon Beach this 5th day of October 2021 by the following roll call. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, sir.
And with that, that's our last. Be a brief on what happened at the gym.
That also will be on the workshop. But this is the gym. And this was the building over here. You remember that there was a connector between them. When they took that off. When they took it off, the patches that they made along the side of the gym, they were not as strong as what they should have been. And then on top of that, we had that, torrential rain. And so there was just in the rain that came in from the west side, from where the roof had been separated, it flowed across the floor. So it was just a little bit of a grade, so it went all the way across and got a lot of things. So they're doing another patch. From what we can tell, that's going to be with O'Brien is going to eat that work. And then we have, because you have so much of the material that is now probably unusable. And there's two parts to that. One is that the bond in the flooring material may have contained asbestos. And then also the glue that had been used may have contained asbestos. And so we are doing a study of the gym, and it'll cost about $2,900. But they will go through, they'll test that material, and they'll test all the other material all the way through, and then tell us what we have. If you come back and if either the adhesive or the floor contains asbestos, it becomes a really big issue. If it doesn't, it costs less than half. The preliminary numbers that we have is that if you're just going to remove, all the material and clean the floor, it's about $30,000. If you have to bring in crews that are set to do all of the work, it would be closer to 75 or 80. So we wait for the material test. And that's the first indicator of what we have to do with it. The other part is that my inclination is to do it now so that we don't hold moisture in that building and potentially cause ourselves some other problems. But it's really not part of this project. We can have it go over as an extension of the contract on the classrooms, and then use the same contractor because it was all tied. So we can do that, or we can wait until we do the work in the gym. My thought is that we're going to have to do it, and I would rather not have something that could create another hazard. I mean, if it's in the material, if it's in the floor, it's probably not flammable yet. But the additional moisture that it would hold like a sponge, I think it would behoove us to get that material out now. What it is, it's a cost that we would pay later. We're doing it now. That'll reduce the cost of when we do the gym by approximately the same amount.
When do you expect to have results from the testing for the asbestos?
I'm not sure, but it's probably a week or two. A lot of it has to, it just depends on when they can get in and how quickly the testing lab can, make the determinations. But also I remember there was some, Sam, you would probably remember, almost looks like this material kind of going up on the second floor, on the wall, coming around. That was questionable as to whether it was asbestos. And you have the same situation with the tile floors. Once you go into, we call it the mezzanine, but once you go into that additional structure, it's linoleum and all that all the way through. And again, potentially asbestos in the material. But those are not damaged right now, which the damaged material is in the gym.
Okay.
So we'll be bringing more information and with a recommendation and a funding recommendation, and then y'all can decide on when we do it.
Okay, we're just waiting for the test. That would happen eventually. Else you gotta do it?
If I can, Sam, I think it addled easily. I think I talked to you last time that the material, the insulation material, I'm sorry, it's not, it's the that they're going to use to put down, because we don't want to do a mechanical roof with nails. And we run into a holdup in that we have the roofing material, but not the adhesive. And so that's taking a little bit of time.
This is on the classroom's current project?
Yes. And so right now, the classrooms are dried in, but they don't have the final roof on and won't until we get supply of the adhesive.
I wonder why I didn't see it earlier.
Yeah. But it is dried in.
Without hearing anything else, we are adjourned.